Oh, okay. The plutocrats, they're throwing a Hail Mary. Well, I think they're seeing that Trump is still way ahead in every single poll. Big donors are now freaking out and are trying to draft Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin into the presidential race. According to Robert Costa, that well-known conservative at the Washington Post, the plan is to push, if not shove, Youngkin into it during what they're calling the Red Vest Retreat in mid-October.
Would you rule this out?
Would I rule out
jumping into the race?
Yeah, I've told you, I'm totally focused on Virginia elections. The whole state has flipped. It's working. And this is a case study for what can be done in other states.
Joining me now, former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich. He's also a Fox News contributor. Mr. Speaker, billionaire Tomas Peterfy told the Washington Post that the money is there if Youngkin wanted to get in. What nonsense is this at this point? I mean, talk about doing an end run around the people, Newt. They don't want what the people want, the big donors. They just want to control everything, I guess.
Look, I suspect the money is there, but the votes aren't. I'm a big fan of Glenn Youngkin. I think he's doing a great job as governor. I think in 2028, he could be a very impressive, maybe even front runner for president. But not this time, not this year. He's correctly focusing on the legislative races in Virginia, where he has a real chance to make a difference. But, you know, I was talking to our mutual friend, the pollster Matt Towery, this afternoon, and Matt said to me, based on what he saw last night, this race is over. Donald Trump will be the nominee. They might as well quit having the various debates because they don't work. They're not helping anybody. And I think that's where we are. I think Trump will be the nominee. And the question now for everybody is, do you want to see Joe Biden reelected, or do you want to help Donald Trump? There's no middle ground here, I don't think, because you're either going to get Trump as president or you're going to get Biden, and Biden's reelection would be a disaster for the country.
But I think you quoted on my podcast today someone saying Trump now, after this last debate, is the reality, and defeating Biden is the necessity. So given those two thoughts that the conservatives, I imagine most of them see now, I mean, now what? Are people going to start dropping out and endorsing Trump, or are they just going to hang out until Super Tuesday?
Well, I think the Republican National Committee should cancel the future debates and say, look, we recognize the objective fact that Trump will be the nominee. We want to work with him. And then the next big hurdle is a totally corrupt judicial system, which is trying every way it can to deny the American people the right to have the candidate that they're choosing. I mean, Trump, in some of these races, some of these polls, Trump is like 43 points ahead of the next person. 43 points. He's going to be the nominee. And I think it tells you how terrified the left is that they're doing everything they can legally because they can't do anything politically. Given the economy, given everything else that's going on, I think the odds are very high that Trump will win the general election, and they're going to do everything they can to stop that.
But Newt, what about my idea that I floated last night on Hannity's show that if we're going to have any debate, why not a debate between Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis? I know they're doing the debate with Newsom, but to me that would be interesting. Maybe no moderator, just the two of them discussing maybe 3 or 4 big issues, because that would actually be fairly entertaining, and I think would maybe learn something.
Look, I think there were a number of smart people on stage last night, and I think that you're right. If they were in a setting where they could have a real conversation, they would be more interesting people. But it wouldn't help them. It would not help any of them get to be the nominee, because the fact is, very few people are going to watch. I don't know what the numbers were last night, but they're going to be worse. If there is a third debate, it'll have virtually no viewership. It'll have no impact except in the news media. And so, I like Nikki Haley a lot. I think she's very smart and did a great job at the UN and a great job as governor. I think Ron DeSantis is an amazing governor and has been about as effective as you could be. And in other circumstances, I suspect he'd be the front runner. But we are where we are. Trump is not really a candidate. He is the leader of a national movement. And that's a totally different psychological and emotional relationship than candidacy. So I think the question now is, can we stop the Justice Department and the various legal assaults? And remember, they're not just attacking Trump. They're trying to block Robert F. Kennedy Jr. They're trying to block the no labels people. I mean, the Biden model is, if I can keep everybody off the ballot and I have no opponent, I'll probably win, which is insane. I mean, it is so un-American to have him lecture the rest of us on democracy, frankly, makes my stomach churn.
Newt, we're about to have Doug Burgum and Vivek Ramaswamy on the show. So if they want to be considered future candidates for the presidency, maybe in a cabinet, or what would you suggest that they do now, really quickly?
Well, look, I've been a candidate. I know that you get in there, you always have hope. They're going to point out that nobody's even voted yet, and they'll think I'm being presumptuous. My advice would be endorse Trump, campaign across the country, get better known. I thought Doug Burgum, given his practical real-life experience in business, given the great job he's done in North Dakota, he clearly should be in a cabinet. I think Ramaswamy has an amazing future. He's 38 years old, and I think he's going to do well. But all these folks are good people. It wasn't that any of them were bad people. It is that none of them is in the same league as Donald Trump, and none of them is in a position to say, with a straight face, I can take on the entire national establishment, have them beat me up for 8 years, and still be cheerfully out here campaigning. Trump is a phenomenon. He's unlike anything I've seen.
Newt, we're going to have him on, so we'll bring it up. Thank you so much.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.